Hi, David. I wanted to leave you some feedback on your personal narrative. Um, I think that you are dealing with or working with some really interesting themes in this submission, in that you're really kind of reflecting first off on some of the prejudice that you've received in your day to day life via classrooms, um, teachers, and then also from the police. I can see that some of the responses that you're giving are direct responses from our scaffolding assignments. Like here, you're talking about your expectations for your children. Um, and I remember that being a question that we talked about, or that you were able to respond to in that essay. Um, I like also that you are. I think one of the most powerful situations, or sorry, that one of the most powerful sections of the paper is when you are asking questions directly to the police officers, because I think that these are really honest questions, and I think that it helps the readers who have had your experience tap into that, but also readers who have not had your experience really kind of understand some of the lasting impact and trauma that being profiled by the police has on an individual. And given the racial unrest that has occurred over the course of the summer from George Floyd's murder, this is something that I think will resonate with a lot of readers. But there are some things that we need to talk. Let me say this: the themes that you're working with, I think that they are good, and I think that they are themes that will resonate with a lot of readers. But there's some things that we need to talk about um, in order to make this a fully realized narrative. So right now, the way that the narrative reads, I would say it does not read like a narrative. It reads like a bunch of isolated paragraphs that are reflecting on what fatherhood may look like, experiencing prejudice, and then also reflecting on, like I said, racial profiling from the police. And they're interesting reflections, but they don't quite connect together as a whole, right? So when you write a narrative, your goal is to tell a story, right? And a personal narrative is a story, a specific story that has happened to you. I don't quite see that yet in this paper, meaning that I can't pinpoint one specific story that you are telling, right? It's kind of like a series of smaller incidents. You do refer at one point to, when you're asking those interesting questions, yeah, it's here it is. If I could talk to the police officers that pulled up that day, um, I would ask, what threat did they see? What was it? My baggy clothes. It seems like you're referring to a very specific incident there. So that potentially could be the story that you end up telling if you're comfortable telling that story. At this point, I don't really know what specific story you're telling, so it's hard for me to point you in a specific direction. But to me, if you were to revise this, and I encourage that you do, I would focus on telling one story, right? And you seem to be right at this moment referring to a specific story that happened on that day. So I think I would tell that story. And then what you can do is give the reflection on how you've experienced prejudice, how it's impacted you, and how you want to see large scale change, not only in the police department, but you also don't want your children to experience some of the things that you went through. Um, so I think I think to revise this, because you're short on the required length as well. This is only 3 pages, and you need 6 to 8. I would work on telling the story, and then think about why you want to tell the story, right? What what's the reason for telling this story? To me, so far, it feels like you're responding in two ways. In other words, you have two reasons. You want to see large scale change um, um, in policing, but you also want a better world for your children. So if you think about how you can tell that story and really take your time, get into that descriptive writing, think about the story arc, what we talked about in class. And then towards the end, you can get into talking about purpose and how you want to see changed, and perhaps how how you will actively try to do that in your own children's lives. So that's one thing that I would that's one way that you could revise this. I also want you to be certain to edit for spelling and spelling error. So you say right here, often there have been times where just what you want to say here is presence. You wrote, this is a homophone error, so you wrote presents. So presents, the way that it's spelled here, is like a present that you get under the Christmas tree, but you mean presence like your physical demeanor at the moment, right? Like you being in a room during an event, and that is actually spelled PRESCENCE. Also, the word choice here, socialism, the socialism I deal with. I think you want another word choice here, because you can be socialized, and you can be a social person. But when we say socialism, that refers to a system of government, typically not how a person was socialized. There are several spelling errors in here, so I would recommend editing for those. If you need help with that, the Writing Center at the Student Success Center, the writing tutors would be an excellent resource for you with helping out with those spelling errors. So all you would have to do once you revise this and tell your story, go to the tutoring center with your draft and just say, I need to edit this for spelling and word choice errors, and they'd be happy to sit down and edit it with you. So that's what I would like to see you work on for revision. I think that you can get this draft there, but as I said, it does indeed need some work. It's short on the page length, and as I said, I don't recognize this as a personal narrative yet, but I think it could become one. So if you have any questions, please reach out, and I'd be happy to answer them. All right, thanks.